Most women spend their lives wondering what it takes to haunt the heart of a man. Not for a moment, not for a night, but to live unshakable in the marrow of his mind. Not as a fleeting thrill, but as a symbol, a force, an enigma he cannot name nor escape. Have you ever wondered why some women disappear without a trace from his memory, while others, without trying, leave a wound in his soul that never quite closes? It isn't beauty, not entirely, nor is it kindness, loyalty, or even the art of seduction. No, what binds a man's longing to a woman like chains made of fire and silk is her energy, her self-possession, her refusal to need him. The woman he can't stop thinking about is not the loudest in the room. She does not chase, she doesn't perform. She enters like a whisper but lingers like thunder. She is the shadowed flame, a woman forged not by the world's applause but by the depths of her own silence. She knows what it means to descend, to fall into herself, to walk through the underworld of pain, rejection, and abandonment, and rise not bitter but sacred. She holds the memory of fire in her veins, and men feel it. They don't understand it, but they ache for it. She understands the law of polarity. She doesn't try to be like a man to keep him. She doesn't shrink into submission to be chosen. She is the sacred opposite, the unknowable mirror, the feminine mystery he cannot conquer. The moment you chase, he forgets. The moment you beg, you dissolve. But the moment you stand still, unyielding, magnetic, alive in your own myth, he feels something ancient stir in him. Something that makes him afraid to lose you, even when he doesn't fully have you. This isn't about playing games. This is about playing your role as nature intended, not the obedient servant of love, but its sovereign priestess. Carl Jung called it the anima, the feminine image within the psyche of every man. She is not a real woman. She is the inner goddess, the symbol of feeling, mystery, emotion, desire. And every man projects her onto someone. You don't become unforgettable by fitting his checklist. You become unforgettable by awakening his anima. But here's the trick: the anima is not just soft. She is chaos wrapped in silk. She is the storm behind the eyes. She does not explain herself. She does not tame herself for his comfort. She brings him closer to his own unconscious, and that terrifies him. Yet he returns. This is the paradox you must understand. The more you abandon yourself to pursue his attention, the more invisible you become. The more you root into your own mystery, your values, your rhythm, the more he senses that you are something he cannot replicate. He can't scroll past you. He can't replace you. Because your essence is not something he consumes. It is something he experiences. She who is unforgettable has danced with her own shadow. She has faced rejection, betrayal, and loneliness, and instead of turning cold, she turned holy. She no longer seeks to prove her worth. She embodies it. And in that embodiment, she becomes a mirror to the parts of him he's never met, his desires, his fears, his ache to be seen. And when a woman reflects that to him, when she becomes both dream and danger, she becomes an echo that haunts every other woman he meets. Now listen carefully. The reason most women are forgotten is because they are afraid to be seen without performing, afraid to walk away when boundaries are crossed, afraid to be alone long enough to know their own power. They show up as echoes, not forces, pleasers, not portals. But the woman he cannot stop thinking about, she makes peace with solitude. She does not wait for love to give her value. She becomes valuable through the solitude itself. There is a sacred loneliness every high-value woman must walk through. It is not punishment, it is initiation. In this space, you learn what you will never tolerate again. You learn how to self-soothe. You learn how to feel your emotions without collapsing. And most importantly, you stop needing a man to remind you that you are desirable. You know it. You wear it. It bleeds from your silence. And that is what he remembers. Not the loud laughter, not the provocative texts, not the way you tried to mold yourself into the woman he said he wanted. He remembers the one who made him feel like he wasn't enough, not because she played games, but because she never needed to play them, because her value was not up for negotiation. She makes him question, she makes him regret, she makes him ache. She is the contrast to everything he's ever known. And here's what you must understand. This energy is not about manipulation. It is about truth, the deepest kind of truth, the kind that makes the soul ache and the body kneel. When you become that woman, not for a man, but for yourself, everything changes. The way you walk, the way you look at the world, the way people respond to you without knowing why. You are no longer chastened. You are choosing, and that shift is everything. There's something haunting about a woman who does not flinch when she's misunderstood. A woman who does not beg to be explained. A woman who can sit with the silence of being doubted, even abandoned, and not collapse beneath it. She is the shadowed flame, and once a man feels her heat, he becomes addicted to its memory. Because she doesn't just awaken his desire, she awakens his psyche. And that is a far more dangerous power. You see, most women seek validation to feel alive. They hand over their sacredness in exchange for temporary attention. They become extensions of a man's ego, not reflections of his unconscious. And so they are consumed, then discarded, praised, then replaced. But she is a symbol. She doesn't just touch a man, she marks him. What makes her unforgettable is not what she says, but what she withholds. It's not the abundance of her affection, but the precision of it. She chooses when to give. She chooses when to vanish. Her silence is not absence. It is presence that demands reverence. She is not cold, she is sovereign. A man may not even understand why he keeps thinking about her, but he will feel the pull, like an ancient tether in his bones. He will measure other women by her stillness, her gaze, her refusal to be moved. And yet, this woman is not born from ease. She has died 1,000 times in the eyes of men who could not hold her depth. She has been told she is too much, too sensitive, too quiet, too mysterious, too self-contained. But she never silenced herself to fit their expectations. She went inward instead, into the dark forest of herself, into the aching quiet where real power is formed. Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This is her alchemy. She has met her own hunger and not judged it. She has wept for love that never returned and not turned bitter. She has learned the sacred art of transmutation, not by avoiding pain, but by letting it remake her. That's why she's unforgettable, because she is not afraid of his darkness. She has walked through her own. And so when a man stands before her, showing only his polished self, she is not fooled. She sees the cracks, the wounds, the boy behind the bravado, and her presence becomes unbearable or magnetic. There is no middle ground. Men don't obsess over women who are easy to understand. They obsess over women who make them feel like they've just met themselves for the first time. The woman he can't stop thinking about is not always the one he ends up with. Often, she's the one who got away because he wasn't ready, because she activated something in him that he couldn't yet name. She didn't make him feel safe. She made him feel seen. And that, for most men, is more terrifying than anything else. But here's what you must remember. She didn't become unforgettable by design. She became unforgettable by devotion to herself. She did not shrink to keep him. She expanded even if it meant losing him. She did not sacrifice her integrity for comfort. She chose truth even when it hurt. And when she walked away, she didn't look back, not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. Because she understands something most never will. The man who cannot hold your depth is not your punishment. He is your mirror. He shows you what part of you is still willing to betray yourself to be loved. And when you no longer betray yourself, you become unforgettable. He will remember the way your energy made him question his own. He will replay your words, not because they flattered him, but because they challenged him. He will feel your absence like a missing piece of sky, not because you manipulated him, but because you held your own flame and never asked him to carry it for you. There's something primal about this, something that cannot be taught in flirtation guides or dating tips. This is archetypal, ancient, wild. She is the woman from his dreams, yes, but more than that, she is the one who forces him to wake up. And even if he runs from her, even if he chooses the woman who plays it safe, who molds herself to him, who makes herself small just to be chosen, he will feel the void. Because the body does not forget the flame, and the psyche does not forget the one who made it tremble. So ask yourself, are you willing to lose everything to become that woman? Are you willing to disappoint others in order to stop betraying yourself? Are you willing to be alone long enough to become unforgettable? Because the truth is, he is not the prize. You are. There is a silence a man sits in after losing a woman who knew herself. It's not the silence of regret, not entirely. It's the silence of recognition. The moment he realizes she was not trying to impress him, she was revealing him, and he wasn't ready to be seen. This is the terrifying beauty of the shadowed flame. She is not the fantasy he controls. She is tea. Truth he avoids. He can date safer women, softer echoes, ones who mirror back only what he wants to see. But at night, when the masks fall and the noise dies, it is her he remembers, not for what she gave him, but for what she made him feel. She awakened him to the ache of something more, something he didn't know he was missing until she walked away. And what made her different? She didn't ask for his love to feel whole. She already was. Her power did not scream. It whispered. It moved like water, not needing permission to exist, yet impossible to hold. You see, the woman who is unforgettable has passed through the death of girlhood. She no longer seeks her father in her lovers. She no longer begs the masculine to validate her softness. She no longer shapeshifts to be palatable. She chooses herself. Again and again and again. Even when it's hard. Even when it costs her the fairy tale. Especially when it costs her the fairy tale. Because she has stopped waiting for a man to crown her worthy. She has already placed the crown on her own head, and it is not made of gold. It is made of everything she has survived. She does not fight to be understood. She does not explain her value. She does not audition for a place in someone's heart. Why? Because she knows the truth that breaks most women. If you have to earn a man's desire, it is not worth having. What he obsesses over is not the woman who gave everything away. It is the one who gave just enough and knew when to walk. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. The feminine in her is wild, not desperate, deep, not demanding. She offers presence, not performance. She is not a reward for good behavior. She is not a prize at the end of effort. She is a mirror and a storm and a sanctuary. Jung spoke of the process of individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole. And that's exactly what she represents to a man. Not comfort, not ease, but wholeness. The integration of shadow and light. The descent into truth. She is the door to his soul, and most men are too afraid to walk through it. So they remember her, obsess over her, try to recreate her, fail. Because she cannot be replicated. She was never taught how to become this. She was forged in the fire of being unseen, in the ache of waiting for love that never arrived, in the silence of realizing that no one was coming to save her. That's when she stopped chasing. That's when she turned inward. And that's when her power returned. The kind of power that doesn't need to be loud to be felt. The kind of power that lives in stillness, in mystery, in boundaries, in refusal. She is unforgettable because she stopped trying to be liked and became someone he doesn't know how to live without. And still she will leave if he is not ready, if he tries to dim her, if he touches her flame and thinks he can own it. Because she knows something most women don't. She knows the cost of self-abandonment, and she will never pay it again. She knows that love without self is just longing dressed as devotion. She knows that being chosen means nothing if you have to betray your soul to earn it. And so she chooses herself first, and that very act makes him want to choose her. But she's not waiting. She has already gone, already disappeared into the night, into her own myth, into her becoming. And he is left wondering, was she even real? Or was she sent to awaken something in me I haven't dared to face? Was she my loss or my lesson? And these questions do not leave him. They live inside him because she is not a memory. She is a mirror, a message, a myth. The shadowed flame never burns out. She simply moves on. And the man who once held her now holds the ache of what he could not keep. So ask yourself again, are you willing to stop performing? Are you willing to sit in your silence until it becomes sacred? Are you willing to become the woman who no longer waits because she remembers who she is? The most intoxicating presence a woman can possess is the absence of need. When she no longer reaches outward for wholeness, when she no longer stretches herself thin to be seen, when she no longer begs to be kept, that is when she becomes a mystery he cannot resolve. The woman who lives in his mind long after her body is gone is not the one who gave everything, nor the one who withheld with cruelty. She is the one who embodied contradiction, warmth without dependence, depth without drowning, magnetism without demand. She didn't try to become his dream. She was the dream, not because she shaped herself to match his desire, but because she revealed his desire to him. And then she vanished. Because she knows something most never do. A woman becomes unforgettable not when she's needed, but when she chooses. This is the raw, unsettling truth of attraction dynamics. The more you seek to be chosen, the less worthy you appear. The more you stand in the truth of your own value, the more irresistible you become. And this is not arrogance, it is alignment. When a woman is connected to her soul, when she no longer trades pieces of herself for scraps of affection, when she no longer confuses attention for intimacy, she becomes rare. Not because she's playing hard to get, but because she is no longer available to be captured. She is not the hunted, she is the horizon. She evokes longing because she is not a goal, she is a portal, a reminder of something lost, a memory of what the soul has been craving beneath all the noise. And men feel this, even if they don't understand it. They feel it in the way she holds eye contact without fear, in the way she walks into a room and doesn't scan it for approval, in the way she listens more than she speaks, not because she has nothing to say, but because she is not auditioning. This woman doesn't need him to validate her worth, and that very energy activates him, because deep within every man is a desire to earn her, not in a transactional way, but in a sacred one. Her very being awakens his inner king, or confronts his wounded boy. There is no neutrality in her presence. He will rise or he will retreat, but he will not forget. And this is where most women fail to understand their power. They think being unforgettable means being unforgettable to him, but it begins long before that. It begins with becoming unforgettable to yourself. To know your truth so deeply that no rejection shakes it. To honor your own intuition over his confusion. To choose your dignity over his potential. That is where the power lives. Because here's the brutal truth. He may not come back. He may never reach out. He may choose someone else, someone easier, someone less confronting. But that has nothing to do with you. Your value is not measured by his capacity to hold you. Your light does not become dim just because he closed his eyes. And this is what separates the girl from the archetype. The girl mourns the love she didn't receive. The archetypal woman, the shadowed flame, mourns nothing. She transforms it. She turns every abandonment into alchemy, every silence into sovereignty. She no longer asks, "Why didn't he choose me?" She asks, "Why did I ever think he could?" Because she has remembered the depth of her own soul, the wisdom of her body, the fire in her boundaries. And now she is untouchable. Not because she's closed, but because she's complete. And this, ironically, is what makes him remember her. He remembers her not as a mistake, but as a moment he wasn't ready to meet. He remembers her not for what she said, but for how he felt in her presence. Unworthy, exposed, awake. And he may spend the rest of his life chasing shadows of her. But she will never be captured again, because she no longer needs to be. She is no longer seeking. She is no longer waiting. She is no longer hoping to be chosen. She is choosing. And in that simple, sovereign act, she becomes unforgettable. There is a moment, subtle, quiet, devastating, when a man realizes he cannot return to the space she once held open for him. It is not because she hates him. It is not because she wants revenge. It is because she has outgrown the version of herself that once wanted him. And that irreversibility is what makes her unforgettable. Because she gave him a glimpse of the divine feminine before he knew how to hold it. She gave him access to the depths of emotion, presence, and power, and then she withdrew, not to punish, but to protect. To protect the part of her that once begged to be seen. To protect the version of her that would have waited by the phone, shrinking with every hour of silence. She is no longer that woman. The shadowed flame does not cling. She does not bargain. She does not argue with disinterest. She feels it, the cooling of his tone, the shift in his energy, the slow retreat of his desire, and she steps back, not out of fear, out of self-trust. Because she knows, the one who cannot hold her should never be allowed to keep her. This is the raw psychology of feminine magnetism. When you know you are whole, not perfect, but whole, you stop trying to convince anyone of your worth. You become less reactive. You start to respond to energy, not words. You don't believe apologies, you believe patterns. You don't chase clarity, you become it. And that changes everything. Because men don't forget the woman who mirrored back their avoidance, who saw through their charm, who didn't melt just because they showed a sliver of affection. Men don't forget the woman who refused to be pulled into confusion. Because she knew confusion is a weapon, a form of power maintenance. The more confused you are, the easier you are to control. But she is clear, devastatingly clear. And clarity is magnetic because most live without it. Most women would rather lose themselves than lose a man. Most would rather contort than confront. But not her. She confronts not with violence, not with rage, but with stillness, with silence. See, with presence. And when he meets that presence, something inside him fractures. Because he sees himself, his patterns, his cowardice, his longing, and he knows he cannot hide. She doesn't shame him, but she doesn't shield him from his truth either. And so he remembers her, not just as the woman he once wanted, but as the one who made him question who he was without her. That is the woman who haunts him, the one who made him feel something before he was ready, the one who didn't ask for more, but required it by her very being. This is not something you can fake. You cannot pretend to be the shadowed flame. You must become her. You must descend. You must walk through the discomfort of being alone, not just for a week, not just until someone better arrives, but until you can sit in your solitude and feel full. Until your self-worth is no longer a performance, but a presence. Until your boundaries are not walls, but invitations to rise, to match, to meet. Until your love is not currency, but art. This is not easy, but it is holy. Because once you become her, you no longer settle. You no longer explain. You no longer diminish your depth for anyone who hasn't learned how to breathe underwater. And if you meet a man who has, you'll know. Because he won't try to tame you. He won't try to rush you. He won't try to own your flame. He will kneel beside it. Protect it. Honor it. But until that man arrives, you do not wait. You create. You walk. You become. Because the woman who becomes unforgettable was never trying to be. She was only ever trying to remember who she was before the world told her to be small. And now that she remembers, she doesn't need to be chosen. She is the one who chooses. The final step in becoming unforgettable is not about him. It's not about whether he texts you again. It's not about whether he regrets losing you. It's not about whether you win his heart or teach him a lesson or become the ache he carries for the rest of his life. The final step is returning home to yourself. Completely, without apology, without hunger, without the need to prove anything to anyone. Because here's what no one tells you. True feminine power is not about seduction. It's about sovereignty. Not the kind that resists intimacy, but the kind that is no longer addicted to it. Not the kind that builds walls, but the kind that knows which doors should never be opened again. Not the kind that fears being hurt, but the kind that understands hurt is not the end. It is the beginning of truth. You are not here to be remembered by every man. You are not here to be pleasing. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to become whole. To remember the woman you were before heartbreak carved her into fragments. To rise from your wounds without bitterness, not because they didn't break you, but because you learned how to hold the pieces with reverence. You are here to become the woman who can look at rejection and say, "Thank you." Because it brought you back to yourself. Because it taught you that your worth does not live in someone else's eyes. Because it forced you to realize you were never meant to be the one who was kept. You were meant to be the one who chooses. There is no obsession greater than the one a man feels for a woman he could not conquer, not because she was playing hard to get, but because she belonged to herself. The woman who cannot be forgotten is not the woman who gave the most. It's the woman who remained the most intact after giving. She did not dissolve into the man. She did not merge into his chaos. She did not sacrifice her identity to be held. She remained her own. In every gaze, in every kiss, in every departure. And when she left, she didn't just leave the room, she left the illusion. The illusion that love requires you to abandon yourself. The illusion that being chosen is the highest form of value. The illusion that your softness must be bartered for security. She doesn't live in those illusions anymore. She lives in truth. And truth, though quiet, leaves echoes. That is what he feels, long after your name has stopped passing through his lips, long after he has deleted your photos and muted your memory. He still feels the part of himself that only you awakened. He still hears the silence where your presence used to be. He still dreams of the way your energy refused to beg. And this is your power. Not the kind that bends others to your will, but the kind that draws the world to its knees without ever raising your voice. Because you are no longer trying to be enough. You are enough. Not for him. For you. You are not the wound. You are the healing. You are not the memory. You are the becoming. You are not the flame he forgot to tend. You are the fire that taught him what it means to feel warmth, and then took it away when he could not stand still long enough to earn it. You are the woman who left not because she stopped loving, but because she started loving herself more. Now, as you walk forward, not looking back, not clinging, not shrinking, you walk as the woman who cannot be replaced. Because your power was never in your body. It was never in your voice, or your smile, or your ability to make him laugh. It was in your absence. And it will haunt him. But it will free you. So take this moment now and breathe. Breathe into the woman you're becoming. Breathe into the silence you once feared. Breathe into the vast, aching beauty of your own soul. You are not forgotten. You are free. Share the moment you felt most empowered in the comments below. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.